Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's vlog. Today is November 6th, 2023, and I cut my hair and it's finally getting cold out. Probably shouldn't have cut my hair this time of year, but what you saw before, that was maybe 2 months growth. It'll grow back fast. But today we're gonna see if we can feed some fish. I got this kind of funny shirt. It's kind of cold. I can't just wear it, but I thought that was funny and I had to buy it when I saw it at the store. Got my really bright flashlight. We're gonna go for a little walk outside. Maybe this week I'll get to use a snowblower. Most likely I won't even bother. We might get 1 to 3 inches of snow in the forecast. It's a wild forecast. Tomorrow's supposed to be 55. Tonight's not supposed to hit freezing, but it's actually flurries outside right now of snow. Tomorrow's gonna be very warm for this time of year. Then after that, it's gonna get super cold for most of the forecast. Over here on my shelf, I have some fish food that we were feeding the tadpoles earlier in the year. Tadpoles just about are all raised up. And I'm sure the tadpoles will eat this. There's a couple of them that are still in the ponds. Some tadpoles, if they eat a lot, they'll become a frog in a few months. If they don't eat a lot, they'll go through the winter like a fish without hibernating. So I think this is actually might be, no, it feels light. I don't think it's brand new. But we're going to go and see if we can feed anything out at the pond with our bright flashlight. Using a bright light for fishing is illegal because it attracts all the fish right over to you at night. And I'm hoping it'll attract a couple fish that I accidentally brought over so I can feed them. When I was moving the tadpoles, apparently somehow I got a couple teeny little baby fish. They survived last winter underneath the ice. They're still in there now. They're maybe about this big. I have no idea what they are. But there's a couple of them, and they'll survive under there again this year. This time of year, all the animals are trying to fatten up, so anytime I have like bacon grease, I throw it outside so animals can lick it up. They love fattening up this time of year. Got raccoons around the house a lot. Raccoons won't go into hibernation if they have a good food source. That's how they work. If they don't have a lot of food, they'll pop in and out of hibernation. They never go in completely like a bear. Look at all the pine needles and stuff, because it's very windy out if you can tell. Oh, there's one of the fish. See him down there? Let's see if I can zoom in. Where'd he go? Oh, it's really windy. Where'd the fish go? I wonder if he'll even be able to find the food with all these other random things falling in. I don't know where the fish went. It's too cold for frogs. I think 2 weeks ago was the last time we'll see them for this year. But they'll pop in and out if it gets warm, really warm again. Just looking around, seeing if I can find any fish. Tonight we got a little bit of water coming out of the pipeline into here. It's just about dried up though. When I designed this pond, I designed it to be deep enough not to freeze. It's 4 feet in the center, and we got this little ledge. My only regret with this is the other side. I wish I built a bigger ledge, because I feel like someday in the future that hill could slip. Hopefully the weight of the pond helps compact underneath so it can't fall in or anything. I don't see the fish again, but let's get the food out. There's a couple of them in there. I was surprised that one was so visible. It has to be the light. Fish are attracted to lights. Alright, let's see if we can drop any food in there. There are a good amount of tadpoles in here too. I'm sure the fish is going to eat a bunch of the tadpoles throughout the winter to survive. That's okay though. The wind, I had trouble throwing that in. Fish flakes are very oily, and oil spreads fast on the surface of the water. That's why, can you see it's moving? Everything is moving because of the oil on the fish flakes. Pine needles, everything is moving around now. This light's falling apart. There we go. Do we see any bites yet? The only movement I'm seeing are the flakes breaking and quickly spreading with the oil. Maybe you can see the couple snowflakes falling. Nope, no bites. Maybe I'm scaring the fish. I've never tried doing this at my own pond, but I've gone to public ponds before at night with big lights to feed the fish. Yeah, this side of the pond, when I first built it, I was afraid of it slipping. Oh, there's the fish. Oh my gosh, they're huge now. Look how many of them there are. Does anyone know what that could be? I'm trying to get a good angle. The fish can't see me. They're blinded by the light, so they... Oh, look, there's a tiny one too. Does anybody in the comments know what those could be? And this pond's deep. It's going to be a pain if I have to try to catch these guys. Eventually, I should catch these guys and get them out of here because they're going to eat all the frogs next year. Now that they're... I didn't realize some are so big. Look at the ones over there. I'd say 7 inches, maybe even a little bigger. They're getting big. Wow. It's like a fish farm too. There's a lot more than I thought there was. A lot more fish than I thought. Bigger than I thought. This right here, this side of the pond is one thing I regret of how it was built. I feel like it slopes a little too fast. It goes from a couple-inch shelf and it just dives really fast. Oh, the snow just picked up. It just picked up a lot. This is a dive lamp, super bright. I like this dive lamp. It's very bright and it actually keeps your hand warm if it's cold. This thing generates a ton of heat actually holding it. And some people say it's supposed to be underwater to keep it cool. But it's also pretty cold outside, so whether that be true or not, I've used this a bunch of times. It never broke down yet. And I like that it doesn't just shut off and strand you in the middle of the woods. It slowly gets dimmer and dimmer. Oh my gosh, do you see that fish? That one is probably more than 8 inches. I don't think you guys can tell size on the camera, but that one's really big. That one might be about 8 inches in there. And we accidentally put those in here when they were all like the size of a guppy, catching them with frogs. Or one of them laid eggs. I don't think they're big enough though. I don't know what kind of fish are around here. Look, there's a tiny one. Tiny little fish. That one's like 1 inch. It barely grew. I feel like one of these must have had babies. I feel like one of them must have laid eggs. There's tiny ones in here, and they're all kind of sticking together like a school. But I don't see any of them necessarily coming up to grab the food. The water in here is still it's dripping a little teeny bit. That's when the pipeline would freeze up, when it's dripping really slow. I have a video last year, I had to flush it because I noticed it was almost completely sealed. I ran water from the basement and it just slid out. I added the 45-degree angle so it wouldn't be able to slide out this time. But I put a heat cable in there. I just plug in the wall and it should turn on. Yep. In an emergency, I would just cut the end of it off and do what I did last year if I absolutely had to. I plan on putting that on a timer, the heat cable, if I'm not home, to maybe turn on 30 minutes every 12 hours just so it doesn't freeze up. If this has a constant trickle of water from the basement where it's warm, it'll never freeze. But this slow dripping, it'll slowly freeze over itself. It'll dam it up and back up into the basement potentially. But you see from here, it's like 6 inches in the ground. Then it's suddenly 2 feet in the ground. And by the time it gets to the house, it's about 5 feet in the ground. So it's not going to freeze up except on the very end of it. And it has the warm ground up until about this point. Yeah, so it has to be going really slow to actually freeze up and cool down like that. So hopefully no problems occur. I see more fish down there. It's kind of cool that there's a bunch of fish, but yeah, they will eat the tadpoles that I raise every year. And I plan on continuing to raise the tadpoles, so I might catch these fish. They're native fish. It's not like a goldfish where you'll get a $100,000 fine for throwing it in a river. These, I can just grab them and relocate them to another pond in the area at some point. And they should be fine because these are all surviving on their own. I have not fed this pond in months. they're just surviving like they would in the wild, whatever falls in here. But as they get big, they're going to require food, and they're going to start eating the tadpoles. I'm sure that's what they're surviving on, the remaining tadpoles that were in here. So I think in the spring... Oh, there's one coming up to get food. Oh, it took a bite. Yeah, there's got to be at least a dozen in here, and that was not like that before. I think they had babies in here, maybe. So I think I'm going to try to get a bunch with a giant fishing net. I'll just drag through here a bunch of times in the spring, and I'll relocate them. I feel like it's better to wait until the spring instead of doing it now. Oh, they're coming up to eat. That's kind of entertaining, actually. I kind of like them, but I feel like these are going to become some kind of fish that's going to be like 3 feet long at some point. That might be a problem. And it also might be a problem with oxygen when they start getting bigger. They survived last winter, but they were just a couple and they were tiny. Now they're huge. So, what do you guys think I should do in the comments? I'll read through those and see what you guys might think. Oh, that one's coming up to eat. Cool. Oh. See if we can zoom in again. Get a better shot of them when they come up to the surface where the water's not like becoming foggy or making them maybe I can walk back over here again. There's a couple of them, small ones. Yeah, there's that one absolute giant one in here, longer than my hand. Alright, I think we're done here at the frog pond for tonight. I'll throw a little bit more food in there for them now, because this is going to freeze up next week. A couple days ago there was actually a layer of ice on the frog pond, but it quickly melted. We had a couple days this year that were, see, it's windy. I can't just throw it. Nah, let's go ahead and... Alright, that's good. There was a bunch of times over the summer I accidentally dumped a lot more than I expected, but frogs and tadpoles were hungry. It disappeared quite fast. Alright, before I end tonight's vlog, let's go for a little walk in the woods before the light dies too. Go for a little walk into the woods. Got a rotten tomato. I'm waiting for all these tomato plants to become so crunchy that I can just smash them out of the cages in the spring. Let's go for a walk into the woods. This light's actually pretty bright. Never gone for a walk in the woods with it, I don't think, yet. And it is nice. It keeps my hand nice and warm holding it. I was looking at pictures I took of these woods 3 years ago, the first time I ever explored my woods, and it looks a lot worse than it does now. Just 3 years ago, it was noticeably a lot denser. It was noticeably greener. That's because 2020, 2021, 2022 were all years of drought. 2021 wasn't too bad. 22 was the worst. This year was cold, below normal, averaging temperatures in the 60s, and raining almost every day. It really helped the moss explode. Everything's looking a little better this year. The trees are starting to fill back in a little compared to last year, regaining their strength, but our average temperatures up here, it's 76, the average high for the summer where I live. This year it averaged in the 60s, which was really good for the environment and trees. It helped break down a lot of this stuff that blew down. Constantly being wet, the moss is able to expand and grow up it quite a bunch. This was the area of our blowdown this year. I did a lot of cleanup and I gave up. The rest of it can rot back, but I broke down most of it. Right there's the creepy mannequin I bought at the going out of business sale of Olympia Sports to maybe scare someone who's walking out here. Bought originally as a Halloween decoration. It said like $60 on it. I actually forget the price, whatever it may have been, but I hesitated, and then I was amazed to find out the 90% off in the building also applied to that sticker price on that thing. So here it looks like it was a blowdown maybe 5 years ago, maybe 8, yeah. This is growing back very nice, the growth of the fir trees. It's all grown back very nice. Here I put an arrow up. This is the property boundary. So the trail starts to loop back around. Put up all the habitat signs out here. I have a trail here cutting back up through the middle of the property, but we're gonna continue on our walk right down in here. So I got these trails going around everywhere. This is like the best part as far as moss. In person, it's way greener, way softer. Back here is owned by the logging company once we hit the border right here. Yep, this is the property line. Just a post jammed in the ground. Don't know how accurate it is. Squirrels and stuff have been chewing a bunch of the ribbons off the trees. That's what that is. A little bit more storm damage. These signs right here were given to me by the state. Amazingly, around here, you only have to put one up every 200 feet, so it's very easy to trespass on someone's yard, even if the signs are put up legally. Look how all the trees are just bent over here, but alive. Can you see that? They're all slanted, and then they straighten out. Why? Were they pushed over when someone pounded that in? Or when this tree fell over, did it have branches extending over into there? I don't know. And here's some mushrooms are called ghost pipe. Supposedly these, if you mix them in with vodka in a mason jar and let it sit for a few months, it turns into like some primitive aspirin or medicine. Don't try doing that. I looked it up online. It seems to be actually kind of dangerous to do it, but that's what the natives used to do. And we continue down the trail here a little ways. It's not as windy anymore. I guess there was just a couple gusts of wind. I hear wind way in the distance. And look, it's warm enough that there's spider friends out today. And here's back into the blowdown. I feel like there was a little micro burst here on the property this year. And that's what all this stuff is. It feels so good to switch hands and have the nice warm light in the other hand. And I also put on panoramic mode. Here we got a trail that only goes a little ways before looping around behind the pallet house. This is where I've been putting food for the raccoons. I've been using it as a feeding area. I put food there like a week ago, but I'm actually going to stop because I might want to do a winter camp here, and I want to get the animal out of the habit of continuously coming here. So I haven't put food here in 2 weeks. Might use it as a winter camp. Got another one of the signs here. Yeah, this light is nice to hold in my hand out here at night. It also makes good for filming. Usually I don't even film in panoramic because I don't have lights that can really make it work, because the further you're zoomed in, it seems like the less light you need. Hey, here's also a result of the blowdown. I don't own those trees. A logging company does, and thankfully they were nice enough to leave like a 50-foot line before the big clearing. Unfortunately, that big clearing there, they might not replant it. To me, it looks like now that they logged it, and this has been logging area for a long time. All the trees you're seeing here in my yard were planted by the logging company in the 70s before selling the land. Because they planned on logging it again. That's why they planted them. Back here, they might not replant, unfortunately. And there's like a pad for a house that's a little ways through the woods. I think it's a pad for a house. It may have just been a turnaround circle, but I don't know. It looks unusual, but it's abandoned again. So come through here, got a nice little tree line. Got another intersection in my trail. This was the second biggest tree on the property. It fell during a storm 2 years ago. I'm not going to bother cutting it up and hauling it. That's just too much work for a piece of pine. If it was maybe oak, I maybe would take the effort. But this is the biggest tree in the yard. If this year wasn't rainy, I believe it would be dead. But it's still living on up there. Look at it. Still alive, green and healthy. It grew this year. A couple of the branches even grew pine cones, but yet the top of it's gone. If we had another year of drought, I think it would have been gone. I think it would have died. This is it. This is the top of it. It fell 2 years ago. The top of that tree, I just looked up inside, fell down in here. I believe this one falling over may have broke that one 2 years ago. And this one fell last winter during the storm that I believe was a microburst. See, I took this nice pyramid-shaped piece of wood out of here to try to make it into a pot. I planted some bulbs for ferns, which they never grew. I didn't put a drain hole in it because I got the ferns out of a swamp and thought they might like it. Now, naturally, there's a raspberry plant growing in there. And we come out here to the trail bridge. I built this bridge because this is always a swampy area, and I bring wagons out here all the time to collect firewood, and this stops them from sinking in the mud. Right underneath here, there's a hole that fills with water. So I dug this trench to concentrate the water just from there to here, like a 10-foot stretch, so the supports aren't always sitting in water. This is the support from an old bridge I had here temporarily. It was frozen to the ground. That's why I left it underneath there, along with the new support. I just swept off the leaves and stuff to maybe help it not rot. Maybe I should come out here and with an air compressor. Maybe it's not even worth it. This is pressure treated wood, and I'm sure I'll get another decade out of it before it's destroyed, and then I could easily replace it again. This is all reused material from a porch I tore down. The beams were all, these are the beams. They were still in good shape, but the decking was destroyed, weathered from years. But I made sure not to dig the trench too far. This area in the spring, if you can tell, it's like a little bowl. It still fills with water, so it doesn't crack in the winter. Potentially, I drain this. I know it'll fill up a little bit, but I don't think enough to crack. It's made by Rubbermaid, and this thing I'm imagining would probably be flexible enough to not break, but I didn't want to take the chance. That's why I built it like this. It's easy to get out of there if it did break, and no matter how low the water is, you see how the little ladders in there, so the animals can get out, anything that might fall in. This is where I put my Thanksgiving turkey. Eventually, everything took it, except the potatoes. There's a slug right there, eating that despite it being so cold. Slugs, that's an old slug. It probably already made it. It's gonna die soon, I imagine. Right here, nothing liked it. This here was pelleted food for goats with dewormer additives in it. I looked it up and it said things like deer could eat it and it would benefit them. Nothing ate it. It rained and rotted. If we continue out here, I didn't push a button, did I? Dimmer, off, on. Yeah, this light's already dying a little bit. It goes, yeah, it's also not producing as much heat in my hand. So I better make this video fast and get back before it completely dies. But I like how it slowly dims instead of just strands you in the dark. But this right here is the big blowdown area. See, it's so much debris on the ground. I tried to get it in piles so things could start growing, which they are. This, I believe, next year is going to explode with berry bushes. And eventually, when the trees start growing back, it'll shade them out. And that's how it works. And look, we got tons of firewood I can eventually haul back. Don't know about this season. It was rainy. It didn't have much of a chance to dry. It actually did dry. Pine, fir trees, aspen, they dry super fast. The thing is, the sap underneath the immediate bark needs to sit maybe another year or two. before that dries up enough where it doesn't create chimney fires. All right, time to get back to the house, and I hope today's video was interesting, everybody. Thanks for watching, and have a great night. You got to keep the camera going walking back to the house because the camera is Bigfoot repellent. That's why you can never get Bigfoot on camera. Just a camera rolling will ensure you're safe walking through the woods, because Bigfoot never wants to be caught on camera. That's why sightings are so rare. You can just sense that there's a camera running. That's why when I put the trail camera near the house a couple days ago, the food just stopped disappearing because of that. I finally made it back to the yard. It's getting windy and stormy out, it feels like. Alright everyone, I hope tonight's video was interesting. Thanks for watching and have a great night.